trading strategist at CM Trading. Fred, welcome to It's All About the Money.
Thank you.
Fred, we are diving, and KZN as a whole, we are diving into a topic that hits home for many of us, securing your retirement on time. I mean, with the 10x investment retirement related report painting a rather sobering picture, it seems that ensuring a comfortable retirement is becoming an elusive dream for most South Africans. So let's start with this question, Fred, with the elephant in the room. With only 6% of South Africans on track to retire comfortable, what's going on? What's going wrong?
So I wouldn't really make it a South African problem. I would
Mm,
make it a global problem, and the reason is just a few factors. Number one, um, the way we expenditure our finances is completely different than what it was 20, 30 years ago. I mean, in the yesteryear, I remember my parents using cash mostly for most of their purchases. And as we've shifted to credit cards, basically our complete expenditure is tainted. We're not really keeping a track on how much we're really spending. So there's tremendous amount of credit card debt, not just in South Africa, that is growing from year to year, but it's a global problem.
hmm,
So that's one of the variables. The other variable is really that it's a known fact that married people earn more than single people. And as we defer getting married, and this is now a cultural norm, not just in the United States, not just in Europe, but it's becoming a cultural norm in South Africa as well, that people are opting to get married later, and thereby they're kind of pushing themselves off with the retirement plans because they're more focused on the now and more focused on the expenditures. And because the world of the internet and just a touch of a button, we could buy so many types of products.
Indeed, they say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the best second time is now. But when it comes to retirement savings in Zanzibar, Africa, do South Africans have the right seeds, or are we planting in infertile soil, Fred?
Well, I would really suggest going back to the basics,
Hmm.
and just really living within your means and having realistic expectations. That would be probably the first step of where I would really recommend, people kind of shifting themselves from an expenditure generation to a
Hmm.
saving generation. And that takes a lot of credit. That takes a lot of courage. There are multiple people who have done the shift in the United States, and they've really made a tremendous stride to, kind of create wealth for themselves. And these are people who have gone down the rabbit hole of, something much more destructive for themselves and have seen that destruction happen very quickly and were able to carry themselves out of those debts in order to create wealth for themselves. So there does need to be austerity. There does need to be a change and shift the way we're, spending money. And it takes discipline just like anything else. So it is possible. That's the bright future, but you have to, self-educate yourself on how to, use your money wisely. It's funny because when I was in business school, no one ever taught us, wealth management for themselves. You
Hmm.
could discuss
Hmm.
finance, you could discuss the financial markets, but nobody ever discussed, how to, manage your own money. And it's a skill just like anything else you learn in life, right? And there's lots of stuff on the internet today that you could actually, read books or you listen to podcasts on how to build your wealth and how to decrease that debt. So the information is there. We just have to tap into it.
Oh, well, yeah, for sure. It's there, it's out there, and there's plenty of it. And if you don't know what you're looking for, sometimes it can be very hard to get what you want. Now, we all know, Fred, that home ownership is often romanticized as the ultimate retirement nest egg. In your expert opinion, is this old chestnut still a reliable cornerstone, or is it still is the foundation shifting beneath our feet?
So we're actually in a very interesting environment right
Hmm.
now. Inflation is very high. Interest rates, as a result, are very high. So it becomes a little bit more cumbersome to invest in real estate right now. But looking at a much longer time period, your house, you try not to change houses too often. So it is a bedrock investment that over time should, okay, there's no promise, there's no guarantee in life, right? But should be still a very rock solid investment for the long term. So that does carry some weight as if you're looking at a broader term. Of course, if you're looking at a 10-year or 15-year, even less than that, the prospects is sometimes lower depending on what's happening in the equity market, depends what happen in the interest rates. So those are concerns, but we know that if you do, it is somewhat of a safe haven in inflationary markets because prices do rise. Sometimes they don't catch up in time. But an overall investment for a lifetime, it's generally found to be a sound investment.
Yeah. Now, another issue, you've touched on it, is debt. Credit card debt can be slippery, leading many to live beyond their means. Now, Fred, in a world of instant gratification, which is what people always say that I work very hard, I deserve to spend my money, how do we combat the buy now, worry later mentality and steer towards a financially secure retirement?
So it's like, for me, it's like going to the doctor. I was living on credit card debt for a very long time.
Hmm.
And, you can accrue it for a few years, 5 years, 10 years, but at a certain point, it catches up on you, just like any bad habits. And as a result, at a certain point, you have a reality check. It's like going to the doctor after many years of having a bad habit, right?
Hmm.
And you could be smart, okay, earlier on and see what other people are doing in your peers or seeing what other people have done who are maybe a few stops ahead of you, right? They're 5 years or 10 years or 15 years older than you, and see some of the mistakes that they've made and how you can correct them. So yeah, and this is what I was referring to at the beginning of the interview, is that there is this shift in the marketplace from cash to credit cards, and it's even worse because we could even put our credit cards on our phones, and we don't even feel like we're swiping. We don't even feel like we're using it, right? It's almost for free, right? But obviously, at the end of the month, we see that it's not, and then it accrues, and then if there's a famous saying by Warren Buffett who says, show me an investment that gives you 30% return. Okay,
Hmm.
that's basically what we're paying the credit card companies is about
So
30%, almost
are
30%
you saying
return.
to us that there isn't, well, maybe there might be, but there isn't an investment that can give you 30%?
No, there is, but from year to year, right?
Yeah,
The credit
yeah.
card
Not
companies are
monthly, not
making
compoundedly,
30%
eh?
on your money from year to year. So, to find an investment that makes 30%, throughout its lifetime is a very difficult thing, right? And because of that, that then becomes you kind of have a reality check of how much you're paying these credit card companies because they know how to. It doesn't show up on your regular statement online. You have to actually go into the statement to see the credit card interest rate that you're paying, and it's a lot of fine lines, and especially if you're falling behind, and you're carrying and you're accruing a credit card debt, then it could snowball into a lots and lots of money. And there's a second debt market in the United States where people actually buy for those that have defaulted, and they come and they create this kind of scenario where people go into bad debt and then they get out of it and then they go through the whole cycle again. So it's not something that is looked upon with responsibility. And so with that, having a reality check of understanding how much you're actually paying and having the resources, realizing how much you're paying for those type of services, it becomes, it behooves a person to, go on a credit card diet.
All right, Kathleen, in case you're wondering, is tonight who's our special guest who's visiting us tonight. It is Fred Razak. He is the chief trading strategist at CMTrading. Before entering Wall Street, he studied at Barak College, City University of New York, majoring in finance and majoring in international business. He landed his first trading position during the boom and bust of the roaring 1990s and the early 2000s. I'm interested and intrigued, Fred, as to how did you survive the 19, or rather the 2008?
So that's a great question.
Mm,
So 2008 was probably the best trading experience I had, maybe
I
the
can
second
imagine. I
best
can
in my
imagine.
career.
Mm,
Um, I saw the writing on the wall. There's two types of people who invest in the markets. There are people who keep an open ear on the street on what's happening, and then there's people who just look at the charts. And I was doing a little bit of both at the time. And I would hear these conversations that people would have that they're doing these ninja loans, no income, no assets, and they would be allowed to make these ridiculous loans. And I said, this is not sustainable. And surely, as things were kind of progressing, and you saw a couple of the major players like Bear Stearns actually start going down, and they were heavily invested in the subprime market. And you saw, the way the home builders were initially, coming off their tops. And I had seen it once before. And I had my finger on the pulse and to see what the market was happening. There, there's boom and bust in the markets. It's
definitely,
just a
definitely.
reality.
Mm,
Okay, and it's great when it's boom, and the bust is also great. And if you understand the larger picture of things, um, there are companies where they do that boom, and some of them don't really deserve to be part of that wave on the way up. Not because they're not talented, but because they don't have the foresight, they don't have the vision to do that next thing. However, when the market does turn around, you see who the better players are. I mean, I remember, so many other competitors to something like, and Google at the time didn't even exist, right?
mm,
To Yahoo or to some of the other search engines that don't exist today at all, because they never knew how to reinvent themselves. They didn't have a vision and didn't have a problem mission statement to carry them through those difficult times. And that's part of the cycle of life, right? There are
mm.
people and that come in with a vision, and it gives opportunities for new people to come in. So it's not we could look at boom and bust from the perspective of wealth being created and wealth being destroyed, but at the same time, that destruction brings in new people into the marketplace and makes it a much more efficient marketplace. So there's several angles that you could look at it.
Lovely. So interesting. I would love you to come back and we focus on really trading because we've noticed that scammers are now using this platform to scam unsuspecting listeners and individuals. So we'll want really to get into the bottom of this and get to understand as to how it works and who does it work for. I mean, and also get the regulator to guide us in this particular topic. Now, Fred, before I let you go, I know that you're rushing to another meeting starting at 8. With about 25 working years ahead for many of our listeners, because that's where they're at in terms of the age, the agency of saving for retirement cannot be overstated. Now, could you share a
Uh,
few strategy for financial resilience that could make a substantial difference in the long run to start now?
okay, so it's all age appropriate. That's the first thing. You wouldn't be investing in your 40s like you'd be investing in your 20s, right? You could be a little bit more aggressive in your 20s. What I would suggest, like across the board, no matter what age you're at, is to lower your debt as much as possible, almost across the board. Take the smallest debt that you have and start knocking them down as you go up higher and higher to the larger debt. And I'm even including car debt. Okay, you want to lower as much debt as you can because those interest rates are very high that you're paying, especially the credit card ones. And if you do have an option to refinance those credit card ones, fantastic, do it. And then taking a portion depending on your age group, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, then allocating some of your money into a house. That's obviously probably one of the most responsible things that you could do, but also having an array of different type of investments. And again, depending on your age group, being accordingly account and responsible. Putting some money into something that is a little bit more aggressive. Okay. And if in your 20s, maybe you want to do that to 30 to 40% of your portfolio. But as you get older, you want to lower that and then put things into investments that are much more conservative, but are much more consistent, so that you can make sure that you're taking defense first and then also taking offense into perspective. So I compare it to playing hockey. Okay, and hockey is a defensive game and an offensive game, and at the same time you've got to think both at the same time when you're investing for yourself, and especially if you're investing for your retirement.
They say time is money, but when it comes to retirement, it seems like time could be your greatest ally, or maybe our gravest enemy. So definitely make sure that you go out there and start saving now and enjoy the power of compound interest. It seems like you're saying to us, if we have debts that are costing us more than we can get from investment, maybe we should invest in our debt.
Well, I would really suggest you lower your debt, because
Yeah.
the interest that you're paying on those debts in order to carry those debts outweigh almost double or triple
Mm,
how much you're making on those investments. So lower your debt and make sure you don't
I
create
got
new
you.
debt, in order that you can focus on making those compounded interests. You can only make those compounded interests, and they're only effective, you know, if you're, creating and lowering those debts. For example, okay, let's say you have $1,000, just for example, in debt, and
Sure.
you have $1,000 in savings. Now,
Mm,
$1,000 in savings, potentially you can make 7%, 10% conservatively. Okay, we're not talking about, putting your funds into something a little bit more aggressive. But at the same time, carrying that $1,000 debt will cost you about 20%. So, making $70 for your yearly return on that thousand return, as an investment, and carrying that debt, which is $1,000, which is earning 20 to even 30%, depending on the type of debt that you're carrying. Obviously you want to lower your that debt, destroy that $1,000 debt, so that you could then funnel in $1,000 into creating that 7% return compounded. Now, 7% compounded over 10 years, it's much more significant.
hmm.
Bullseye.
Well, that's to you, Fred. Bullseye indeed. With your insights, I'm confident that our listeners are gaining invaluable knowledge to help them secure, their financial armor. So thank you so much for your time. I know I've got to let you go.
My pleasure. Have a good evening.
All right, there you have it, KZN. That is Fred Razak. He is the Chief Trading Strategist at CMTrading, and helping us to plan better for retirement. I hope that that could help us to secure retirement, which is within reach, if we're willing to learn and take action. All right, KZN, as we wrap up tonight's conversation, let us remember that the road to financial freedom is a journey, not a sprint. And it is paved with discipline, knowledge, and sometimes the courage to take the path less traveled by investing in ourselves and our financial literacy. Hence, we always invite you to tune in to It's All About the Money on Vuma FM.